Good morning.
Good morning.
Today we celebrate the feast of Christ the King. King is an image that is difficult for many of us Americans to understand and to accept because we don't have kings. And not only that, it's doubly difficult because we have this king on a cross dying. It's pretty powerful of image. And there are two thieves beside him that are also going to die. And they're all feeling lost and desperate. And Jesus says the most remarkable thing, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Then we have the leaders that are there and they're deriding Jesus. They are humiliating him, saying, "Hey, you said you were the king of the Jews. Save yourself." And then we have one of the thieves who's saying, "Oh, you said you were a king. Why are you not saving yourself and save us?" They're desperate. They're desperate and they want to save themselves. I want to tell you a story about desperation and fear and depression. Many, many years ago when I was in seminary, not that many years, I was driving with my two children, 5 and 7 years old, from Boston to New Haven, Connecticut, where I was in seminary. And it was in the winter, it was dark and cold, and I drove on 90, the Mass Turnpike. And I had this little car, the Leur car, remember the Leur car? There was barely a car, right? And in the middle of nowhere, in the total darkness and the freezing cold, I got a flat tire. I thought about, what am I going to do? I have 2 kids in the back seat, and my son, there were no cell phones back then. My son was a very active kid. He still is, and he's 44. And I was afraid that if I put the car up on the jack, that he would move in the car and the whole thing would fall over. So I had to come up with a scheme that was going to interest them so they wouldn't get wiggly. So I turned to Ben and Jill and I said, "Okay, this is an adventure." That was always the words I used when I was terrified. And I wanted my children to sort of relax and not be afraid. So I also was bucking myself up by saying, okay, I can do this. I know how to change a tire. So I turned the car off and I turned the lights on and I got the jack and I jacked the car up. And every time I removed a lug bolt, I put it on the hood of the car, opened the window and said, "Look, we got the first one, yay!" The 2 kids were in the back with a down comforter sleeping bag wrapped around them to keep them warm. So I got through the hard part of removing the lug bolts, changing the tire, and I was okay, and I was feeling really proud of myself. The kids were fine. And then I went to start the car, and because I had left the lights on, the battery was dead. I thought maybe a few minutes, but it was an old car. So that was really scary because how am I going to get the car started now? And it's cold. So if the car doesn't start, the kids are going to be cold, and who knows? Meanwhile, you've got cars flying by at 60, 70 miles an hour, and it's completely pitch dark. So I just said to myself, okay, we're gonna get through this, we're gonna live, and somehow it'll be okay. And God is with me. And as I said that, I looked up and saw flashing lights. Blue lights and yellow lights, but they were on the other side of the highway, going in the opposite direction. So I thought, a policeman. I don't care what they're doing. So in order to make myself known, I had to run across this pitch black highway. It was so dark that I actually could not even see the ground, when only knew it was there when my foot hit the pavement, and run across the highway to the median strip. And the only reason I knew I was there was because my foot went crunch in the snow. So I stood there in the median strip, waving my arms, and they saw me. And the police, yelled, "What's the matter? I need help, my car won't start." And they said, "Well, we have a woman here with small children." I said, "Me too!" So there was a tow truck there. Someone had had a similar problem, and I was going to be helped when they were finished. And they came, and they jump-started my car, and we drove home in safety. It was an adventure. I'm not even sure my children remember it. But in that darkness, in that desperation and fear, I was rescued. But I was not really rescued by the police. I was rescued by the silence within me, by the belief that God was with me, and if I could just contain my panic and believe, we would be okay. And we were. So life is an adventure, but God is with us in the struggle, and it is not without its struggles. So did God, I'm not saying, by the way, that God saved me from death or destruction or tragedy. No. God saved me from my own panic. It is God that is in us, God that is with us, that redeems the terrible things we must endure sometimes. On Sunday mornings, when we take in the Eucharist, we eat the body of Christ, believing, accepting, embracing all that Jesus means. The desperation goes away. Fear is made low, and panic is vanquished. Christ, the King, the power to magically come down from the cross, that's not really what it's about. It's about reaching down, deep down inside of ourselves, into our hearts, and believing that God is here in the struggle. And it's a joyful thing to know it. The texts in our lessons today bring us contrasts, contrasting image. We've got Jesus saying, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." At the same time, you've got two thieves who are being punished. You have a king, the image of a king, and the image of a shepherd in the Old Testament lesson. So what about us? Our Colossians passage says, "May we be made strong and prepared to endure everything with patience and joy." God has rescued us from the darkness and brought us into the kingdom of redemption and forgiveness. We have to believe. What do we believe? We have to believe in love. We have to believe in sharing, in caring for one another. Not to get points in heaven or to save ourselves, but to make the world that God gave us, that God created, a better place, a safer place, a softer place, more joyful. God is our refuge, and Jesus shows us the power of redemption through a different kind of kingdom. And that is why we are here. And that is why we need to have more people here sharing in this joy and this love. And that is why when we open our doors to the LGBTQ community. And that is why in our church, women can lead. Women can be priests and bishops. That is why we vow at our baptism to respect the dignity of every human being, because we believe in God, in goodness, in love, and in each other. And so in this week of Thanksgiving, we have much to be thankful for. We can be thankful for one another and for the ways that God has blessed us and our creation. And I'd like to end by saying, pass it on, and God bless you. Amen.
Amen.